Hi guys, my name is Dante, so let's get back to our cheating tutorial. Today we're gonna start creating a painting. I'll talk about it in a moment, but right now I wanted to address a couple of things that you guys told me in the comments in the previous video. First of all, the huge discussion about me saying that using photos, putting photos into a painting is uncool, and you said that I'm wrong and many cool artists actually use photo bashing to create concept art and other artwork. I know, that's cool, but it's a different genre. On this channel, at least right now, at least today, we're talking about digital painting. Creating paintings, not concepts or any kind of like look development things or whatever. We're creating a painting that has an illustration value, not just presenting a concept of what something would look like, so it would be just used afterwards in a production. When we're talking about paintings, every brushstroke matters. If you have a grass in a background, you can't just slam a piece of photo in there and be all cool with that, because if you paint it yourself, you have a certain type of brushwork and dynamics of details and the level of detail that is supporting the painting. It's a very different thing. That's literally what photo can't give you. So whatever you put in a photo, you will have to completely redo anyway. So it just doesn't work there. It's a different genre. In a painting, it's much more important to show your emotion, your idea, and how you think about it in every brushstroke. It's like an emotion in each stroke. And photo bashing doesn't really do it. It just takes care of photorealistic details that are not that important for the sake of creating the concept you're working on faster. Nothing wrong with that, and I've seen amazing artwork done with photo bashing. I never said that it's uncool or anything. It's just not that level of definition. A concept artist can't create an emotional concept art. It's always gonna be maybe an emotional character, but they're gonna be just, you know, in this environment of generic world of whatever they're working for. Different genre. I know I didn't get it through to many of you anyway, because there was a lot of talking in the comments and it did not end well anyway. But just do know that I'm not against photo bashing. It's okay, but not here. We're not doing that. Photo bashing has its own name for a reason, because it's not painting, it's photo bashing. Another thing that you guys pointed out, that me using Blender for creating a 3D guide for the picture, for geometry and anatomy, proportions, and whatever stuff like that, maybe not the best for the common audience. Like, not all of you guys can really dedicate yourself enough to learn such a big and complex program like Blender. Like, it's a very deep, all-in-one package program. It can do all kinds of stuff. You can literally, I don't know, create 3D graphics for Avengers movie in here. Potentially. So it's like a big deal, but I'm just really used to this kind of environment in general, although I don't know Blender that well myself. But it's free, it's really powerful, and it's a good idea to learn Blender if you want to just choose one program in 3D to learn once and just be set, presumably forever. Like, you don't have to download and install any special plugins to it or anything. It has everything in it and it works really well. It updates all the time. It's a very alive development and everything. So it's a really cool thing. If you want to get into 3D, then definitely go with Blender. Today, it's a #1 choice in any case. But if you just want to have a program that would have certain amount of guidance, and you don't really care about having realistic rendering or being able to animate or creating really detailed models or something. I don't even know what I'm talking about because I haven't really tried, but I did download and took a look at Dev Studio. Some of you guys said that that's a good program. I did like it. Like, it does seem like a good ragdoll kind of simulator. Like, it has models, some of them are free, like a man, a woman, really high detail, and it has a good manipulation so you can put characters in different positions and everything, but I'm not sure that it can handle the much more important part of what I'm trying to achieve in Blender. It's actually creating locations, setting up cameras and lighting, specifically the kind that I need, and just creating a shot at a very specific complex angle, taking care of the floor, the walls, or the landscape and everything. I don't think Dev Studio does that. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe it has a bit more to it, but it seems like it's mostly about just the models of humans and maybe someone else, but mostly humans. Although I have to mention, when I was downloading that studio, they said that I'm downloading an actual bundle of 2 programs, and the second one was Hexagon. It's from the Dev Studio creators, and it seems by description that this is a program that allows you to model anything, and much easier than an average 3D program, probably easier than Blender. So if you're not sure about checking out actual Blender, maybe you want to try Hexagon. It's also free. It seems like a good idea to use that if you want to have things a bit easier. So yeah, I guess this is it. Let's actually start. As you can see on my desktop computer, I already have Blender ready with this model of the 3D character that I created. It's just a dummy with basic anatomy proportions, and that's pretty much all I need. And then when we'll come up with the actual story in the quick doodle, we'll have the idea of what kind of characters, how much of them, and what sizes of them they should be, make little adjustments, and start actually positioning them right away. So that's why I created this quick dummy to start with, but we'll get to it in a moment. Right now we need to come up with the actual idea. So let's start with that. So first of all, the verbal description. What are we painting at all? The painting will be called Black Widow. This is the name of my new painting. It's gonna be a semi-twisted, semi-creepy, but not really, like with a very colorful personality character. A woman in a black Victorian dress. It's actually gonna be a second painting in a series that I decided to make a series. And the first painting was the Moth Lady. I really like that character. I really like the way she turned out. She has her own issues, so we'll probably remake her as well after we finish Black Widow. So it's gonna be in that kind of sense, a twisted, weird character, maybe a ghost, maybe some kind of, I don't know. So the basic concept initially was that this is a very pale woman in a black Victorian dress with black hair, and her dress is very weird and creepy in a way that it's really black, and it has like a hint that maybe there's a whole lot of spiders underneath the dress, like a hidden danger in her dress or something like that. I'm not sure yet on which level that will be visible, how much creepy or horrible it will look like, or maybe just a slight hint and mostly just a woman. Anyway, that was the initial idea, but then when I decided to implement it into this whole idea of cheating and using 3D as a guide instead of the sketch, I decided that we shouldn't stop there, right? Because we can do all kinds of complex stuff in there. In 3D, we can create a lot of characters and very complex angles and everything. So let's use the potential. Otherwise, it doesn't really make sense to go into the whole 3D construction when it's gonna be just one character standing casually in a normal eye-level angle or anything. So I decided that aside from just there being a woman in a black dress, there will also be her children. And they're gonna be like also Victorian style, creepy, ghosty kids. I was thinking like mostly there will be completely black glossy, like they're fully covered in black oil. But then I thought it's gonna be kind of boring a little bit, so let's make them actually be very pale and white, like the opposite. But their hands up to the elbows and the legs up to the knees and the faces maybe really covered in this black, gooey, thick matter, like some kind of oil, like just black dirt. But you can see that they're initially wearing all white and really dirty with something black and gross on top. And they will be kind of like crawling around this place in different ways, whatever. I haven't turned on the recording. Give me a second. Forgot to turn on the recording from the screen. I hope you saw. No, you didn't see anything. So yeah, this is the general idea. So this is the Black Widow. She's wearing the black dress and kids are crawling all over it. One of them is holding her dress maybe, and we can see like the folds. Another one is here. And now we should actually, like, I literally don't have the actual plan. I only have the plan to create a plan, which is the whole point of trying out this pipeline. So right now we'll create an actual like doodle to figure out where we are, how exactly the characters are positioned on the canvas at all, like who's where. So let's start. I'll spend some time actually doodling around right now, and then I'll tell you what I came up with. Alright, so this is what I've got so far. This kind of old house room, but it's like super messed up, really old, like completely abandoned pretty much or something like that. Yet they all still live there. This is like the orphanage. I thought, why not, right? But it's gonna be like just so dirty that you don't feel like we're at that time or this place is where actually people live in that time. But the chandelier will work. So we'll have really bright light on the face of the Black Widow, and maybe some kids will be also lit up pretty well, but many of them will be in, like, seriously in the dark. And yeah, a creepy little hint on a kid crawling on the wall. I think that'll work out pretty well. And yeah, these kids, they are even standing close to this. This is a doorway. We're looking through the doorway into this room. So this is what I've got so far. There will be more detail to it that I didn't think through yet, like maybe she's probably holding some kind of food and she's throwing it on the floor and the kids are gathering around because it's the meal time. And so she's holding some kind of, whatever it would be, some kind of bag, and she's probably throwing like raw meat on the floor. This is getting really creepy, I like it. I love the fact that I don't have to think about how complex it will be to draw so many kids or whatever, and the fact that I've already built this room very off geometry-wise, and these kids, they would not be spread in that room this way if they would be actually three-dimensional, because we'll take care of it later. But one thing I want to point out as well is that there should be some kind of drapes over here, right? We shouldn't forget. This room should be like really a room that used to be alive, but it's all gonna be very abandoned in the end. So yeah, should not leave an empty window, which is a stupid idea to have. Oh, what if the scrolling kid is tilting a painting a little bit? That'll be a cool little touch over here. So yeah, there we go. This is a pretty cool idea. I feel like the angle generally is kind of boring, but that doesn't matter. We'll decide on that stuff in 3D, as well as how we position the kids, and maybe there will be even much more kids, like impressively a lot of kids. That will look really cool, so we may play around with that. But generally we know that there will be really bright light source. This chandelier over here will be seriously lighting up the face of the woman, and her face will be like the key moment, the first thing you look at when you look at this picture. So we'll maybe frame it slightly differently. Maybe the woman would be slightly to the left a little bit, so she would be more in the thirds. But I don't know, we'll see. Right now we need to have this room to then think it through. We'll have the room, we'll position the camera, and then looking through the camera, we'll be positioning everything in the room and looking at how it's turning out on the final canvas through the camera. So let's move on to 3D. Alright, so here we go. Hopefully everything will record fine, because I never tried this. So this is it. This is the character that I created before. Just a basic dummy with as little polygons as possible, because I really don't want to define more detail that I can possibly think of in 3D. Like, I just need the guidance of which angles and which sizes these body parts will take on the canvas. That's all I need from it. That's why I don't really like a highly defined anatomy in some desk studio or something. Like, I need this. So hopefully it'll turn out well. I didn't really test this model in anything. Like, I didn't really pose it much. I did it because this is something I had to prepare, so I would figure out myself how everything works in Blender. I didn't really do this kind of stuff before. So yeah, it was pretty simple. Just created boxes and then extruded them into whatever object I wanted, this kind of way. The biggest pain was always to get the right position of this origin point. It's an important thing. In this case, it's like an equivalent of pivot point in any kind of Photoshop or whatever. So basically, if I will rotate this object, it will rotate around this dot. And same goes for all the other objects. So basically, this whole model is just different boxes extruded into more custom shapes and put into places where I need them to be for it to look like a human. Otherwise, they're not really connected in any way. Like, you can just disconnect it at any moment and it's just gonna fall apart. So this is literally just a set of boxes with origin points in specific places. And in order to put this thing into a proper position, you need to select body parts you wanna move around, and you only use rotation. You don't move them around, you only rotate, the way all of our joints work. And that's about it. That's all it is. Very little work put into it. There's hierarchy, obviously. Like, the only bone you can move around is the pelvis, because that will move around the whole object. And everything else goes the way, whoa, yeah, the way the hierarchy of bones in human body goes. So this is it. At first, I did it without even the guidance for the proportions or anything. So the first version actually looked like this, like a slightly distorted. But then I thought I shouldn't be that stupid and I should use some kind of reference to get like closer to more realistic proportions of a human being in general. And so I looked up anatomy proportions picture on Google, and it actually showed me a texture I can't really show you right now. But anyway, it was this picture. It was from Proco's website. They share this guide for human anatomy proportions, so you can download it and use it. I just put it right here and changed the proportions of my model based on one of the skeletons in that picture. Yeah, this glitch with the texture, I don't know what that's about. Keep in mind, this is Blender 2.8, which is not actually out yet. This is alpha, so it crashes sometimes and stuff like that, but it's just so much better than the previous version that I still use it. After all, we're not doing anything super complex. This is just putting boxes in places. So hopefully it'll turn out well, and if anything, I just save a lot. So yeah, this is the world. This is a basic plane that I put a checkered texture on for the floor. It wasn't here initially. And there's one light source, as you can see, softly lighting up this place. Here it is. It's just an area light. We're not going to be using it in the final scene because we need a chandelier, and that's an omni light source that is lighting up in all directions. So we're going to be using a different light source, but for now, just keep this one in case I need to look at the actual rendering. And if I turn this off, it's gonna be a bit too dark. So yeah, we have this light source, we have the floor. Yeah, the final object in the scene is this, and this is the camera. Just a camera that I created before when I was testing things around. And so we can create like a separate view in this program, and it's like the same kind of view as this one, but we can press a 0 button and we'll be looking through this camera. So this is important. When you have a camera in the scene, it means that you can always get back to this exact point of view with this exact angle and all the settings for the camera. So this is a good thing to have, and you can manipulate it here and see what's going on in there. And finally, just to show you around, this is the cool stuff. So as you can see right now, we rendered this image from being just a basic 3D view to an actual finalized look with ray traced shadows and depth of field and everything. So this is like the final look we'll get. This is where we'll get all the cool reflected lights rendered and everything. It will get like super realistic lighting on these simplified boxes. So it's like a little guidance, but the geometry will still be simple. A pretty good base to start painting from, I think. We'll see how it'll turn out. But yeah, for now, it just stays there. I'll just shelve it like this. Even just hide the camera. Right now, what we need to do is we should model this room that we have in the sketch that I already uploaded to desktop. So yeah, I'm just gonna be looking at this picture on the second display. And by the way, the camera already has, not the camera, the rendering settings already has the resolution 5.5K by 4K. And that's the resolution of my document on iPad. We can actually go higher than that, why not, right? If it's gonna be a complex picture. But anyway, these are the exact proportions of the canvas. So when we see this tall rectangle right here, slightly horizontal, this is exactly the proportions of the document I have, like the proportions of this picture, exact proportions. So we already have the canvas, now we just need to put all these geometry things in proper places. So yeah, let's start. I'm not gonna do an actual like fully detailed tutorial on Blender, obviously, because in that case, this process will never end. This is just gonna grow into a channel about Blender. So if you need to know the basics, if you wanna start learning Blender, which is a great thing to do, check out this channel, Blender Guru. I think he's the best guy to learn Blender from. He's amazing. He's really close to what I do. He's like the same thing, just a casual guy who tells you about all kinds of stuff in Blender, and he's awesome. He's so good to learn from. So if you need the actual basics, you'll really need to learn Blender from ground up. That's the channel to go to for sure. And in here, we're not gonna go too much into specific details unless I for some reason want to, if I'll think that it's interesting to do. But for now, let's just go ahead and start building this room that we have in the reference. One more thing though, before I started, I of course looked up a bunch of references, because without that, I don't even know exactly what layout of the room to have or anything. What we had in the sketch is really wrong in many ways. So I looked up, and the first thing I noticed that I already made wrong in the sketch is that I made the ceilings very low. No Victorian times room would have such low ceilings. They're all very tall, that's the thing. In old times, no one had like an apartment that had a ceiling close to your head. It's only a modern thing. So if you really go for Victorian times, even if it's an orphanage place, they still have tall ceilings. So we're gonna go with tall ceilings. And it's probably gonna work out well, because right now, with low ceiling, we have chandelier just hitting the face of this woman, which is kind of odd. I didn't mention it, but I actually wanted to. I thought it may be a good idea that she's like really big. She's a really tall person. But overall, if you don't count that, all the paintings and everything, they're pretty much on the human height, but then it's just immediately the end of the room. So it was just a very low ceiling room, like even for a modern place. So we're gonna fix that for sure. It's gonna be a much taller place. And yeah, also have some references on the chandeliers, on the Victorian dresses, the black ones. I looked it up. Also, plus size was a good idea. And one more thing, the thing that I mentioned in the previous episode, that something you may want to look up to get inspired or just get a general hint like on the style on how to solve things in your painting, looking up some other artists that you admire. And in my case right now we're looking at Piotr Yaptonsky, I suppose that's how you pronounce it. He's a Polish concept artist pretty much, but he's doing just actual paintings, no photo bashing as far as I know, maybe just applying some textures or whatever. But you're probably familiar with his artwork because he blew up on the internet recently with his Dishonored 2 concept art. So in here he has amazing stuff going on. This is one of my favorite pictures of his, really cool looking artwork, and I really love his mood, the way he renders the air perspective and the color abstraction, and generally how pictures are very realistically moody, almost black and white in a way, but because of the proper application of colors and color abstraction, it just looks so satisfying. But another really cool thing about his artwork is that a lot of the times he has just such a good, like, just shape dynamics. He really works well with shapes, with the composition and stuff like that, and implementing really realistic lighting to it supports it so well. So I'm like seriously inspired by him, and I want to do something like it. It will probably never look exactly like that, but what's interesting, by the way, there was a picture that's like really close in the style to what I had in mind for the Black Widow, like literally also black dress, and probably kind of Victorian times for the place, only this is outdoors and this is like a ghost that is flying around, but somewhat close. So we have this to take a look at if we would be wondering how do we render black cloth in that situation or something like that. So this is cool that we have it. Generally, we're not specifically doing a tribute to this artist or anything like that. It's just worth mentioning that this is an art style that I'm inspired by at the moment. So yeah, I'm gonna start modeling. I hope by the end of this episode we'll have a finished layout of the room with the main character. This is pretty much the widow dummy right here, and we'll position her in the proper place. So let's start modeling the room. Alright, so here we go. I created this floor for the room. The basic rectangle was 5 meters each side. I don't know how much that in feet. And then I extruded it upwards to create walls. And these walls are 3 meters tall. Pretty tall, I guess. Maybe they were even taller back then, but I guess this is good enough. So yeah, I tried to follow everything I had in my concept. So we had some kind of a extrusion over here of this wall. So here it is before it turns away into this extra thing. This is not the way the room would actually end, but we don't need to see what's going on afterwards. So there's something in there. And in here there will be the door. That's where the camera will be sneaking in. And in here there's a window. It's gonna be right here now. Here will be the furniture. And somewhere in the center of the room will be the chandelier. So let's do the rest of the box. The actual doorway, like create a hole and create some kind of hole and a hint of geometry on the window, I guess. Right, so this is what we get at the moment. I think this is pretty much a finished box. Everything we actually need from the basic geometry of the room. Just one window like this. It maybe should get a bit smaller, and also maybe, as I think about it, we should probably position it a bit closer like this. But we'll see, we'll move that around when we need to. And also about the door, I know it's like super narrow. I just had an idea that in old school houses, they also had very narrow windows and doors, but this seems to be a bit too narrow. This is slightly shorter than 1 meter. Although, no, wait, it's probably fine. It's just, why did I make it go up to the ceiling completely? That's weird. Well, it doesn't actually matter anyway. Maybe that's why. Because we're not gonna see the top of the door. It's gonna be just like that. Yeah, so let's actually not do that because that's a waste of time. And while you waste time, you don't spend it to do something actually awesome for the picture. So yeah, this is so far what we have. Let's maybe now position the main character, just the position of the Black Widow without the actual pose. And a light source, the basic one, and a camera. Let's decide on where it's gonna be for the first iteration, just to follow what we have in the sketch. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so far this is it. This is what we get. A bit too dark. Let me increase the brightness. So yeah, these things are the doorway, and in here a little corner. And the rest is you know what. And here's the pose of the Black Widow that we can actually change right here with a lot of noise. Like maybe she'll tilt her head like that a little bit. Oh yeah, that's already creepy. Whatever that is. So yeah, a lot of stuff to work with on the lighting and just adding a lot of geometry. Right now it looks really weird. Now it looks like just a person is looking at their new apartment that is completely empty. But yeah, in the future it's gonna work out much better, I think. And the light, of course, shouldn't be pure white. There's no way it's possible in that time. So let's add some temperature. 4,000 kelvins, or what is it? I don't know. 4,500, maybe 5,000. Okay, that's good enough. Like, still, like, it's really bright though. I may choose a different type of light source in the future. I don't know which one. But yeah, for now, I guess this is it. This is what we built up so far. We have our widow. We have the viewer sneaking in and looking through the doorway. We have a hole for the window. And yeah, the light source. So yeah, for now this is it. In the next episode we'll probably finish building up everything, and then we'll think more on top of it, like what we can add, how we can change. As we now have the 3D model, we can think a lot more with just poses and not how to visualize the pose. So this whole thing was done really quickly, or at least should I say in a very small amount of actions. I haven't done this kind of extrusion before as well for the room, and it turned out really easy and without a lot of nonsense to do. Like, it was pretty quick if you know what you're doing. So yeah, so far very fun, and this is indeed so far a very quick build up of a scene with perfect geometry, perfect perspective and everything, and the ability to create really complex angles and stuff like that. So really excited about this. Tell me guys what you think. Did you like the process in general? Was it at all interesting to look at the 3D process for a little while? But yeah, this is the idea. Tell me what you think about the actual scene we have. Like, what do you think about the Black Widow and her kids and feeding them with raw meat? And just maybe this widow is also pregnant. I'm not sure. Is that too far? You tell me. And I thank you for watching if you did. I guess you did if you're here. Leave a like and subscribe. Tell a friend. Don't look her in the eyes for too long. Do whatever you want. And I will see you in the next one. Bye. Just to think about the fact that soon with NVIDIA RTX technology, this will be actually real time without the stupid noise and everything. That's gonna be so cool.